Geode mod loader for Geometry Dash has changed the game forever since its release, and continues to as more and more people in the Geometry Dash community contribute useful mods for the players. Whether it's online multiplayer, editor improvements, or cosmetics, most mods are universally praised and accepted by the community. However, a select few have managed to divide the community on their usage and whether they count as cheating, which is what we're going to be discussing in this video. We'll be starting with the least controversial mod on the list, but before that, if you want to potentially win money and be in my videos, I'm hosting a Geometry Dash competition you can enter, which I discussed in my previous video linked in the description. Check it out if you're interested. With that aside, let's get to our first mod, Icon Hack, which is pretty straightforward. It gives the player access to all the icons and colors in the game without needing to unlock them, and has been around for a long time. Update 2.2 brought us hundreds of new icons, many of which take an unbelievable amount of time to unlock, with some not even being unlockable until 2.21 drops, which will probably take longer than GTA 6 knowing RobTop. So many people resort to Icon Hack to be able to use the icons and colors they want, whether it's due to the icons not being unlockable, or not having or wanting to spend the time unlocking them, which to me is perfectly reasonable. However, many people don't find it acceptable to use Icon Hack, seeing it as cheating and that it removes the point of playing the game altogether, which I actually do half agree with as well, and actually stated in one of my previous videos. However, I think there's a bit more nuance I didn't iterate in that video. I see Icon Hack not as something that takes away the entire point of playing the game altogether, but removes any system of progression besides just beating harder and harder levels. I personally don't use it, as unlocking icons gives me a sense of motivation for trying to achieve certain milestones in the game. But for Icon Hack users, they simply don't care about going through that kind of progression, and would rather just use the icons they want, which I completely understand. From the perspective of RobTop, however, despite the fact that it doesn't make him lose out on money as the icons are completely free, it does tear down his progression system he put in place, which is why I don't ever see Icon Hack becoming a thing in vanilla Geometry Dash, unlike the other hacks that I spoke about in said video and the other mods on this list. The other thing for non-Icon Hack players is that people using Icon Hack makes their legitimate icon sets feel less significant when everyone else can just get them without any work, which I do understand, but all you have to simply say is that you don't use Icon Hack yourself, and all of a sudden everyone understands that the icons you got were legitimate, which makes them more impressive, if you do care about that. However, all in all, Icon Hack is one of the less controversial mods, as most people understand that while it is cheating and does remove some sense of progression in the game, it's only cosmetic, doesn't affect gameplay or other people, and has valid reasons for its usage, which we see with only around 9% of you guys saying that it's not acceptable to use. However, not all of these apply for this next mod, Platformer Saves. This is a newer mod which allows players to return to their furthest checkpoint they reached in a platformer level, even after quitting the level. Meaning if you want to take a break from a platformer level, you can come back to the furthest checkpoint you reached. Vanilla Geometry Dash doesn't allow you to restore to checkpoints you reached after quitting. Meaning if you really wanted to not have to reset back to the beginning, you'd have to keep your game on 24/7 in the level you're playing, and the only way you could play a different level is on another device, which is quite ridiculous, but shows that it's still possible, which is why I believe that this mod makes a lot of sense. People who are against this mod see it as making platformer levels too easy. However, I think it's a bit different than something like a start position, as the creator of the level intends for those checkpoints to be used, and just making it so that you can return to the checkpoint you still had to spend the time and effort to get to after quitting the level doesn't make the level itself any easier. This mod is also very motivating for people to pursue platformer levels, as they no longer have to worry about spending hours beating a level in one session. I think that the controversy behind this mod mostly comes down to it deviating from vanilla Geometry Dash and not putting everyone on an even playing field, which is why I don't use it personally. And surprisingly, you guys see this mod as the least acceptable of the three on this list, which I honestly didn't expect, with 21% of you guys saying it's not acceptable to use. However, what's good about this mod is that RobTop actually expressed that he's not against adding this feature in vanilla Geometry Dash, so we could see this getting added pretty soon, unlike this next mod RobTop doesn't seem to support. Click Between Frames. This is a mod that's more controversial at a top level, mostly with level verifications. This mod allows your character's jumps to be registered in between each of the game's ticks. In other words, it allows jumps to be registered between each period that the game registers movement, which by default is maxed out at 240 ticks per second. It also doesn't change the physics of the game itself, only reduces delay. This mod is especially useful on low refresh rates, where there's a longer time between frames shown on screen, but it's still beneficial at all refresh rates. I tried using it myself on 240Hz and 60Hz respectively, and felt virtually no difference at all at 240Hz, but testing on 60Hz, I did feel a decent difference, especially in the ship game mode, feeling a lot less delay in my character's movement, while the refresh rate itself still wasn't very smooth. It's a weird feeling, but I see how this mod is very beneficial for people who don't have access to high refresh rate displays. The community had very mixed reactions when people verified levels using this mod, and this notably left the Demonless team with a choice to make, to come down to a verdict on whether completions using this mod should be considered legit or not. And after a lot of discourse, this mod actually ended up getting approved for Demonless completions, which caused a lot of people to get upset, saying that the Demon List officially allows cheating, which I do kind of understand as it does deviate from vanilla Geometry Dash. However, to make matters worse, unlike platformer saves, RobTop seems to heavily disapprove of click between frames mod and won't rate levels verified using it, creating a discrepancy between the Demonless team who considers this mod legit and RobTop who considers it cheating. He has stated that he'll work on his own version of the mod, but that it won't be quite the same, so to not get our hopes up. I don't understand what would be different with RobTop's version, but we'll have to see when it gets released. If you're asking me, I don't personally use any of the mods on this list, but I do think the controversy comes down to whether RobTop will create his own versions of these mods to get added to vanilla Geometry Dash, notably for iOS players who don't have access to Geode, which I could see for platformer saves and click between frames, but totally not for icon hack. I do really have to give my flowers to the Geode team, as it being free gives a huge portion of the community access to these innovative mods, which is amazing. But that's what I think. Let me know your thoughts on these 3 mods, whether it's acceptable to use them, and if you use them yourself in the comments below. Love you all.